Tom Parker Bowles has spent years floating around the edges of the royal family as the harmless food critic son of Queen Camilla. But this situation made people look at him completely differently, because according to reports coming out around this story, what allegedly happened at Balmoral was not some small misunderstanding or awkward family disagreement. This turned into accusations of forged documents, unauthorized business deals, legal threats, and a fight inside the royal family that apparently became so ugly even longtime palace staff were shocked by it. And honestly, the reason this story grabbed so much attention is because it hit one of the biggest pressure points inside the monarchy. People can tolerate scandals, affairs, embarrassing interviews, all of that. But the second somebody looks like they are using royal property and royal status to personally make money behind the scenes, the reaction changes fast, especially when Balmoral is involved. According to the claims surrounding the situation, Tom allegedly pitched a luxury food and travel documentary series to production companies and investors, and the big selling point was access to royal estates, not just any locations either. Balmoral Castle, Sandringham, Windsor. Basically the kind of places normal people would never even dream of filming inside casually, and the producers apparently believed him because, well, he is Camilla's son. If somebody sitting across from you says they can get cameras inside Balmoral, most people are not exactly going to challenge it immediately, especially if paperwork is being shown around. That looks official. That is where the situation reportedly became much more serious. The story claims Tom assured people he had authorization to arrange filming access contracts. Money allegedly started moving into his personal accounts, and entire production crews were hired before anybody high up in the royal family even knew what was happening. We are talking lighting rigs, catering trucks, camera equipment, full commercial production setup, not some tiny student project sneaking around with an iPhone. And then came the moment that apparently changed everything. Princess Anne reportedly arrived at Balmoral unexpectedly, while the crew was already setting up inside the castle. And people close to the situation say Anne was absolutely furious when she walked in and saw commercial filming equipment sitting inside one of the most personal royal properties in Britain. Do you think Tom Parker Bowles was wrong to use his royal connection to make business deals? Or do you believe he was just using family access like anyone else would? Comment yes or no below. And if you think Princess Anne was right to shut down the production and investigate what happened, do not stay silent about it. Like this video, share it with everyone who cares about accountability, and subscribe right now to Royal Daily Report. Every like and every share tells YouTube to show what's really happening instead of letting palace officials hide things behind closed doors. If you believe Tom should face real consequences for his actions, prove it by supporting this channel before the next revelation breaks. You also have to remember what Balmoral represents emotionally for the family. Queen Elizabeth died there. Anne was there during those final days. So from Anne's perspective, this was not just somebody using a building without permission. She allegedly saw it as people turning a deeply personal family place into a business opportunity. That is why the reaction became so intense so quickly. According to the story, Anne immediately shut the production down, ordered everybody off the property, and demanded the entire crew leave with their equipment almost immediately. Apparently, security even had to step in because the confrontation became that heated. What makes this even crazier is that Tom reportedly was not even there himself during the actual setup. He had stayed back in London while the crew handled everything at Balmoral, which honestly made the whole thing look even worse afterward, because it gave the impression he thought the operation was safe enough to run without personally supervising it. After that, Anne allegedly contacted King Charles directly to ask whether he had approved any of this. And according to the reports, Charles had absolutely no idea what she was talking about. That phone call seems to have been the moment where this whole thing stopped being an embarrassing family issue and became a serious legal problem. Because once royal lawyers reportedly started looking into the paperwork, the contracts, and the money trail, they allegedly discovered this was not just one isolated incident involving Balmoral. Investigators supposedly found claims that Tom had also pitched access to other royal properties to separate companies too. And that is where people around the monarchy apparently started realizing this situation might be much bigger than anyone first thought. When investigators reportedly started digging deeper into Tom Parker Bowles's finances and business history, the mood around the entire situation shifted fast. At first, it sounded like somebody had gotten careless and pushed their royal connection too far one time. But according to the claims coming out afterward, the lawyers allegedly started seeing a pattern that had been building for years. And honestly, this is the part that made people online really start talking. Because once you go back through Tom's history, there were already moments that had caused major embarrassment for the royal family long before this Balmoral situation ever happened. A lot of people suddenly remember the old scandal from the late 90s, when Tom got caught up in that drug controversy during the Cannes Film Festival. Back then, reports claimed he was recorded discussing cocaine and talking openly about drug use around wealthy social circles. It became front-page news everywhere in Britain. Apparently, King Charles, who was still Prince Charles at the time, was furious about it. Camilla was devastated, and according to royal insiders, there were even concerns behind palace walls about whether Tom was somebody Prince William should be kept away from when he was younger. That history suddenly became relevant again because critics started saying the royal family had spent years quietly cleaning up Tom's problems instead of forcing him to deal with consequences publicly. And now people were wondering if that same protection had allowed things to spiral even further behind the scenes. The alleged investigation reportedly uncovered claims that Tom had spent years using the royal connection attached to his name to boost business deals, media projects, and professional opportunities in ways that crossed uncomfortable lines. Restaurant owners allegedly felt pressured to accommodate him because nobody wanted to upset the Queen Consort's son. Publishers reportedly offered deals that critics believed were inflated because of the royal connection, rather than just his actual market value as a food writer. And then there were the accusations involving palace branding and communication channels. According to reports tied to the case, investigators allegedly found examples where royal stationery palace-style formatting and connections to official royal communication systems had been used in ways that made private business arrangements appear much more official than they actually were. That apparently became a huge issue because once people see royal branding attached to something, most assume the monarchy itself approved it. Do you think the royal family was wrong to protect Tom from consequences for so many years, or do you believe family members have to help each other? Tell us yes or no in the comments. And if you think King Charles should have been tougher on Tom from the beginning, do not let this moment pass quietly. Like this video right now, share it with people who care about royal accountability, and subscribe to Royal Daily Report immediately. When people stay silent, wealthy royal insiders avoid responsibility. When thousands speak up, YouTube has to push the truth about what happens behind palace walls. If you believe accountability matters for everyone, make your voice heard before we move to the next royal scandal. At the same time, another layer of tension was reportedly happening quietly inside the family involving Prince William. Multiple reports connected to the story claimed William had already kept a serious distance from Tom for years, and apparently that tension went back all the way to those older concerns from the 90s. So when the Balmoral allegations exploded, insiders claimed William was not shocked at all. If anything, he was supposedly pushing for Anne to continue the legal fight instead of letting the whole thing disappear quietly. And that apparently became a major problem for King Charles, because suddenly Charles was stuck between two completely different pressures inside his own family. On one side was Princess Anne, who reportedly wanted a full investigation and accountability. On the other side was Queen Camilla, who allegedly believed dragging this into court publicly would humiliate the monarchy even more than the original scandal itself. According to palace gossip surrounding the fallout, the arguments between Anne and Camilla became extremely hostile. Staff members allegedly overheard shouting behind closed doors during meetings about how the situation should be handled. And honestly, people were fascinated by that detail, because Anne rarely loses composure publicly. Her entire reputation inside the monarchy is built around discipline and emotional control. But apparently, this situation hit something much more personal. There is already decades of complicated history between Anne and Camilla going back to the 70s because of Andrew Parker Bowles and all the strange relationship drama connected to that era of the royal family. So when Tom became the center of another scandal tied to Camilla, some people close to the family allegedly believed all those old frustrations came boiling back to the surface. Camilla reportedly tried multiple ways to slow the investigation down. According to the story, she allegedly pressured legal teams, pushed palace staff to stay loyal, and funded Tom's legal defense with extremely expensive lawyers, who tried turning the case into a personal feud rather than focusing on the actual accusations. And the legal strategy apparently became very aggressive. Instead of mainly denying the behavior itself, the defense reportedly focused on attacking Anne's motivations and questioning whether she was pursuing the case partly because of old resentment toward Camilla, which honestly made the entire thing look even messier publicly. Because now this was not just about contracts and forged authorization anymore. It started looking like decades of buried royal tension exploding all at once. Once the case reportedly moved deeper into legal proceedings, the entire situation became even more uncomfortable for the monarchy because lawyers started running into a problem nobody inside the palace really wanted to deal with publicly. Balmoral is not part of the crown estate. It is privately owned by the king himself, and that created a massive legal gray area around who actually had the authority to push certain claims forward. Tom Parker Bowles' legal team apparently grabbed onto that immediately. According to reports surrounding the proceedings, the defense argued that because Balmoral belongs personally to King Charles, only Charles himself had the standing to fully authorize legal action connected to what happened there. And that became a nightmare politically, because Charles reportedly refused to clearly pick a side publicly. That hesitation ended up frustrating almost everyone involved. Princess Anne allegedly wanted a direct response and clear support for the investigation. Camilla reportedly wanted the entire thing handled quietly, before more damage was done. Meanwhile, Charles seemed trapped somewhere in the middle, trying to avoid publicly destroying either his wife or his sister, while the scandal kept growing anyway. And honestly, that indecision made the monarchy look weak to a lot of people watching this unfold, because once allegations involve forged documents, business deals, and fake royal authorization, most people expect a firm response immediately. Instead, according to the reports tied to this situation, everything became buried under procedural arguments, technical disputes, and endless legal delays. Tom's lawyers reportedly challenged almost everything. They questioned whether Anne personally had legal standing. They fought over documents. They reportedly searched through historical examples of royals and royal associates, informally using properties without strict written approval, trying to create the impression that the rules around access had always been somewhat loose behind palace walls. At the same time, witnesses apparently became another major issue. Some palace staff reportedly needed subpoenas before agreeing to testify at all. Others suddenly claimed they could not fully remember conversations or details surrounding the Balmoral production setup. And honestly, that part probably tells you everything about how much pressure people inside royal circles must have felt during this whole mess. Nobody wants to become the employee blamed for publicly damaging the monarchy. Meanwhile, Anne reportedly kept pushing forward anyway, and even covered her own legal expenses personally, because she apparently did not want anyone accusing her of using royal money to settle private scores. And this is really the bigger reason the story became such a talking point online. It stopped being only about Tom Parker Bowles. The situation started exposing what many critics already believe about the monarchy itself, which is that there is no truly independent system for handling serious misconduct connected to royal insiders. Everything still depends on family relationships, influence, silence, and internal politics. If senior royals disagree with each other, the entire process can reportedly stall for months, because there is no outside mechanism strong enough to force clarity quickly. That is the part many people found uncomfortable watching this unfold, because it created the impression that accountability inside royal circles depends heavily on who protects you. And in this situation, Tom allegedly had powerful protection for a very long time. Critics pointed to years of royal proximity helping him professionally, years of scandals fading quietly, and years where people around him allegedly looked the other way because challenging someone tied so closely to the future queen simply was not worth the trouble. By the end of all this, the public image damage had already been done regardless of what ultimately happens legally. King Charles reportedly came across as hesitant and unwilling to confront the situation directly. Camilla faced accusations of trying to shield her son at all costs. Tom's reputation took an enormous hit because the allegations painted a picture of someone monetizing royal access far beyond what most people considered acceptable. And then there was Anne. A lot of people actually walked away from the story, seeing Princess Anne very differently. Even critics of the monarchy admitted she looked like the only person inside the institution willing to push for accountability, no matter how ugly the family conflict became. Especially because Balmoral clearly carried emotional significance for her after Queen Elizabeth's death there. That emotional connection honestly explains why Anne reportedly refused to back down, even when the situation became politically disastrous for the palace. Because from her perspective, according to people close to the story, this was never just about one documentary crew walking into a castle. It became about whether royal connections would continue protecting people from